Hey y'all, Michael Akers here. Welcome to my workshop. This is my first project video, so I'm hoping I don't mess it up too poorly. Either way, there's a guy named Nick that's got his own YouTube channel named NZ Woodturner, or NZ Woodturning, one of the two. Either way, the guy's name is Nick, I think. I'll leave a link in the description. He's got a really cool channel, and you should really go check it out because he does some really awesome stuff, just kind of freehand and on the fly with a lot of things that he does. Most of the time, he self-admittedly doesn't know exactly what he's doing whenever he first jumps into a project, and it turns out really cool from so far every time that I've seen him produce a video. Either way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try something that I saw on his channel, basically because my entire Facebook page one day, once I started doing wood turning, was inundated with a video that he made. He takes colored pencils, like I said, and he makes some really awesome things out of there. One of the things that he has done is he has taken these things and broken a lot of the pieces of them up. Filled a vessel similar to this, which this is an old CD spindle cover. From what he says, the type of plastic that this is made out of doesn't allow any type of an epoxy resin to really adhere to the sidewalls too well, especially if you were to kind of grease it up. Some people do, some people don't. I've watched a lot of different people's videos and whatnot, and I've seen it done a couple different ways. I'm going to go ahead and spray some oil on here before I end up filling it up with resin, just because of the fact that the way that luck plays out for me a lot of times, it gets stuck real quick. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and break up apart a whole bunch of these pencils and see what I can make out of it. Now, if everything works out, I'm going to fill this full of a whole bunch of broken pieces of pencils and some epoxy resin, and we'll see exactly how this sets up. It's going to take a while for it to dry, probably about 24 hours or so, and then at that point in time I can put it on the lathe and hopefully make something really cool out of it. And I hope you enjoy the video. I'm going to start off by taking a whole bunch of these pencils and using my bandsaw to go ahead and cut them into a much smaller, more workable bunch of pieces. Then I'm going to fill them up to here to see about how many I'm going to need. I've only got 100, so I'm hoping it's going to work out. We'll see how it goes. As it turns out, 100 pencils looks like it's going to be just enough to pretty much fill this entire vessel. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put a little piece of wood down here at the bottom so that later I can have that to attach to it and cut a tenon into, so I can put it on the lathe. I think I like the look of the sharpened pencils versus just the jagged edge cut off pieces of pencil that I've got here. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to take each one of these things out and sharpen each one that isn't sharpened. One thing I haven't seen Nick do over on his channel so far, now he may do it, I just simply haven't seen it yet, is I think I'm going to take a lot of the shavings and save them in this container and possibly use them as a filler in between the gaps so that I'm not losing a whole bunch of my material, and at that same time I can also save some of that resin because this stuff's not really inexpensive at all. So I'm going to get to work, and we'll see you in a minute. Well, maybe several minutes. It's a lot of pencils. Okay, so after quite a bit of time, I finally got all of these, well now, let's see, trying to think about how many different pieces I've got now. 300 pieces, I guess, total, as far as these little colored pencils. Took each one of them. Like I said, they're just standard Crayola pencils. Got these from my local Kroger, and they come 52 a pack for about $11 a pack. Not the cheapest thing in the world, but you know, hey, not bad. You pay for quality, and as far as I'm concerned, Crayola is probably one of the easier ones to work out there. They tend to splinter a lot less, in my personal opinion, and in my experience when it comes down to different types of art projects and whatnot when you're trying to sharpen them. So I've got all of them cut down. I took each one of the pencils and cut them down to a third of their original size. After that, I went and sharpened them. Using the pencil sharpener that I had and modified it to try and make the process go a little bit more quickly. I saved all the shavings as well. I like how the different little spiral portions come out whenever you're using a manual pencil sharpener versus an electric pencil sharpener. And so I'm hoping that I can use this in the project and kind of layer the pencils and the shavings one on top of the other in and amongst the resin, and one, it'll keep me from having to waste so much of the different pencils and whatnot by actually keeping the shavings, because I like I said, the way that the sharpened pencils look versus just the broken pieces. And at the same time, it'll fill up a lot of the volume of this particular cylinder, I feel, and hopefully make it where I won't have to use nearly as much resin. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a piece of this redwood that I've got. There's a buddy of mine, Russ Klee, that gave me a whole bunch of different pieces of wood, and that's really, really awesome. They're just scrap pieces that he had laying around his shop. They said that I can come and use. I'm going to take and cut down a piece of this that will fit inside this cylinder after I take it over to the planer and make sure that I've got a nice smooth edge on both sides. I think that's going to be something that I can use to make a nice base in the bottom of here, so that I can put that on a lathe later on and make a tenon out of it, so I can put it on the chuck. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, just to give you an update, what I've done is I've taken two pieces of that redwood that I talked about earlier. I cut two of them into circles that'll fit into this cylinder, and what I'll do from this point is I'm going to take a whole bunch of these colored pencils along with these shavings and put them in layers. Out of that, or I'm going to mix them kind of into amongst themselves while I'm putting in the resin. This is two-part resin, two-part epoxy resin that's made by Super Glaze. It's really good stuff. I like it a lot. Doesn't cure extremely fast, but it's already starting to kind of work itself through, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. I filled the majority of the cylinder now with the pencils and the shavings, leaving just a little bit more room up top for the last piece of the stock that I want to put right here. That'll kind of sit in there almost like a little bit of a lid in a sense, and just kind of cap it off so I've got something to put in between centers whenever I go to put it on the lathe. I'll compress this down and make it to where hopefully it'll be a nice solid piece once it's all done. Now all I've got to do is add the resin. And what I wanted to do is leave primarily the last layer that I put on here as the actual solid pencils instead of the shavings, so it have kind of, in a sense, more something to bite onto with the resin when it comes down to putting on the stock.